Hello again, my friends. Here we are into October, and guess what? The Rugby World Cup is in full swing, and it's being held here in New Zealand. So the entire country's in an uproar. And I live here at Village at the Park, and it was called Village at the Park because it's the old athletic park, which was the home of rugby for almost 100 years here in Wellington. So this place is full on about rugby and other things, and this whole complex is regarded as hallowed ground. It's quite funny, actually. Many other things happened here than rugby, and so a few of us have got together and celebrated that. For example, I was present at the Mass when Pope John Paul II visited New Zealand in 1986. The Mass was held here in his honour, and you'll see that, I think, on one of my posters. Plus, across the road was the hospital where I worked and lived, our hospital of Calvary Hospital, and the patrons coming to the various games for almost 100 years used to pass through our grounds. We have many memorable stories there. Along from there, it's been an interesting week for me, and an indication, I guess, of how all the time we're called on to make choices, to make wise choices, hopefully. Started off on Monday by discovering that because I'm about to celebrate a birthday, i.e. 82, in which I have to have my driver's license renewed, discovered that I failed my eyesight test. So panic set in. We've got it sorted, I think. I was able to get an urgent appointment with an optician, able to discover that I have a cataract in each eye, yes, but that I can be given, but with his help, with the optician's help, I can have my glasses strengthened, put into new frames which are more strong, and I'll be able to have a renewed driver's license for daytime driving only. And that's fine for me. That's all I really need. I had to make a wise choice as to whether to proceed with that or not, as a matter of fact. And I guess I just felt I wasn't ready to let go my driving just yet. I'd like to be able to be realistic and sensible when that time comes, but I just didn't feel ready for it. You can call it denial if you like, but we all know, don't we, that denial is actually a very useful mechanism. When I was in psychiatric work, I used never to blame or criticise my clients who denied how bad things were, because that's a mechanism that actually keeps us going, keeps us together, while we get back in touch with our reality. And for me anyway, taking that back to prayer and asking the Lord for help at this time. That's the real wise choice, I think, is not to rely on oneself at a time like that. And that's the tendency for me, and I guess for all of us. But rather to take it back to prayer, to take it back and ask God's help. Not asking God to make the decision for me, but asking his help to come to the realisation of what I really need to do, that's best for myself and best for the world in which I live. Am I going to be a menace if I drive, for example? You know, there's a lovely story told of an Italian painter from the Middle Ages by the name of Perugini. When he was dying, he decided not to ask the Lord for forgiveness for his sins. And his wife was pretty upset about that. She said to him, why aren't you going to confession? And he said, well, my dear, I look at it this way. I'm a painter, I'm an artist, and I'm good at what I do. That is my job, that's my life. The Lord is a forgiver, and that's what the Lord does. And the Lord is good at what the Lord does. I figure out that if I leave it to him, then I need have no fear when I die. That's a lovely story, isn't it? He made a wise choice. You could argue, of course, that he should maybe have gone to confession or whatever. I'm not going to get into a theological discussion about all that. I'm just suggesting that he had a wonderful take on God's mercy. And I think it's the mercy of God that helps us through all of our crises. Because just as an aside, I came back from having failed my eye test to find that I had a lovely little dolphin that I had sitting on one of my benches had got broken. So it's not been a terribly happy week, but we're getting there. And as I say, I have now got a restricted driver's license, so I'm really happy about that, because that's really all I need. So to sum up, this has been a bit of a mixed bag for you today, as we've talked about lots of different things. I think the point I want to conclude with is the idea that we're often called on to make choices. The gravity of that will depend, of course, on the situation. So to make a wise choice, we need to rely, I believe, not entirely on our own resources, but on our relationship with our God of love and mercy, our God of forgiveness and compassion, who is there for us always. And as a matter of me stilling myself, stilling my body, stilling my mind, handing that issue, that challenge, whatever it is, over to God and just calming myself and allowing him to work through that. It happens. So thank you for being with me today. Go well, go with your God, and we'll talk again soon.